It was what had always been acceptable. Treating us as unequals was a privilege granted them by the laws of our land. As I grew and experienced these interactions with the adults in my community and with whites outside my community, I realized that a teaspoon of my self-esteem was being extracted day by day as I struggled to survive the risky lifestyle I had to embrace in order to be safe. I came to expect this demeaning process. I didn't know how, where, why, or when it would occur. But the expectation of it boiled the fear inside me until it was overwhelming, and I realized if I didn't control it, it would eat me alive. This book is about my experiences as a Black child growing up in Little Rock, Arkansas, in the 1940s and 50s, under the umbrella of the rules and traditions of my oppressors. We, as Black people, were compelled to learn these rules in order to stay alive. They were rules that were not written down, but instead handed down through the spoken word from generation to generation by Black folks absolutely committed to passing them on so that they and their descendants would live to one day become free and equal, to experience the freedom and justice for all in the Constitution. Chapter 1. I'll figure it out later. The first thing I remember about being a person living in Little Rock, Arkansas during the 1940s is the gut-wrenching fear in my heart and in my tummy that I was in danger. I didn't know why exactly, but clouds of dread engulfed me every evening when day turned to night. I sensed from the very first moment of consciousness that I was living in a place where I was not welcome. By age 3, I realized the culture of this small town in the Deep South was such that the color of my skin framed the entire scope of my life. It brought with it many ground rules designed to imprison and control everyone who was not white. Of the 88,000 residents, 66,000 were white, while 22,000 were Black. The white people and the Black people lived in separate worlds that seemed to intersect only when absolutely necessary. My big questions from the beginning were, who set up my community that way, and why? And why do whites get more privileges than we do? More houses, more books, more pets, and more food. More merchandise in all the downtown stores. All the police officers and firefighters, and all the transportation. Even the city buses belonged to them. When I felt frightened and overwhelmed, which was often, I would clench my fists so hard that my knuckles would hurt. Then I would press my open hands into my sides as hard as I could. I would let go and do it again and again until I felt in control of the terror bubbling inside me. In order to feel safe, I always wanted to stay at home with my mother, Lois, my grandma, India, my papa, Will, and my baby brother, Conrad. Sometimes I stayed in my own room with my Raggedy Ann doll, who I called Melly, my other stuffed animals, and my books. It was the only place I felt totally safe, as if I belonged. There was love and good in that small world for me. There was nobody there to be mean to me and call me nigger. Our home was welcoming and cozy. There were always aromas of tasty dishes, flowers cut from our backyard in vases, doilies that Grandma India crocheted on tables, and squares of tapestry she had made on the walls. Tattered but freshly swept carpets covered the highly polished hardwood floors, and the rooms were filled with antique velvet-covered chairs inherited from my great-grandma. Grandma always hummed as she baked, especially when she prepared gingerbread men or coconut cake. I always felt loved, protected, and wanted by all the adults in my life. On most days, my brother and I stayed in the house, pretending we were other people by dressing up or playing with paper dolls, puzzles, and blocks. When Grandma was outside, we followed her into the gated backyard, where we rolled around with our big red wagon and helped her water all the plants. Come 4 o'clock in the afternoon, Grandma would let me go with her to the garden in the rear of the backyard to water what she called her 4 o'clock plants. Often, I would stand beside her and wrap my hand in her freshly starched house dress as the water sprayed in my face. and never knew.
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.